You are listening to the Hodges Huddle, where we discuss all things in the wide world of sports. Here's your KLSU sports team.
Welcome into the Hodges Huddle. I'm your host, Andre Champagne, and today we are joined by Raven Freeman and Jayden Smith. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Just, cool little Tuesday like last time.
Yeah, man. Cool little Tuesday.
I mean, I'm doing okay. It's rainy here, so
Yeah, the
my
weather
mood is kind of like.
The weather is depressing.
It is
This
depressing.
is what being in like the UK is like, yo. It's like this every day. But we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk about this LSU team really quickly. LSU went on to beat the Florida Gators by a score of 52-35 behind Jayden Daniels' historical performance. He accounted for over 600 all-purpose yards, and he became the first player in college football history to throw for over 350 yards and rush for over 200 yards in the same game. So let's talk about that. Even if LSU is 7-3, do you think Jayden Daniels still should be the front runner, I would say, at the Heisman?
Absolutely, man. He just did something that's literally never been done before.
Mm-hmm.
He has probably the best numbers in the country. And it's not like, this team is, sub 500 or anything
Right.
like that. Like, it's still a good team,
Yeah.
I feel like. And I think when you factor in the fact that if you take him off of this team is probably below 500.
Yeah.
I think, you have to consider that as well. And like I say, man, just cut the tape on, man. I think the award should go to the best player,
Mm-hmm.
and I think people should kind of just relax and chill on the team aspect of the award.
I agree.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just because the defense performed poorly all season doesn't mean Jayden should have to suffer from their actions. I mean, the Heisman, like Jayden says, is an individual award, not a team award.
Yeah, I think it's like remarkable what Jayden Daniels is doing, and it shouldn't come down to that team record. I mean, you're looking at a player that leads the country in all-purpose yards, and he's tit for tat in other statistics such as passing yards and passing touchdowns.
Yeah.
And this guy's single-handedly, like you said, he's won games for LSU this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't see that impact on other teams like what Jayden Daniels is doing. And don't get me wrong, I think Michael Penix he's a guy that's kind of letting Washington, stay in games and winning them games, but I just don't see it as much as a big impact of what Daniels is doing. But he's starting to catch up to those numbers that Lamar Jackson reached during his Heisman year, which is just insane to look at. And then that's rare company to be in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I unfortunately think that the politics that go into this award, that for Daniels to win this, I think Penix needs to lose a game or two, and then Oregon needs to lose another game. But with the recent comparisons to Joe Burrow, do you think that Jayden Daniels could end up being the best quarterback in LSU history?
I think it just depends on what you're looking at. I think it depends on what you consider to be most important. Obviously, if you're one of those people where you prioritize winning. over everything else, then I feel like, you're going to go with Joe. And even besides
I feel like
that,
that's unfair, though.
and it is. But even besides that, when you just look at the season Joe had, because that's what it was. It was the 2019 season.
Yeah.
I mean, 5,600 yards, 65 total touchdowns, 76% completion percentage. Like, I just know that off the top of my head because it was
That
so
good.
ridiculous. So I think it really just depends on what you're looking at. Jayden Daniels has, in this very moment, totaled 6,077 passing yards, 66 total touchdowns, nearly 2,000 rushing yards. That's pretty ridiculous in itself. But I think it really just depends on what you care most about. It's definitely a conversation to be had, I feel like.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could end up being the best quarterback in LSU history only because he has less weapons than Joe did. Joe had a dominant offense and defense, but the fact that Jayden Daniels basically carries his offense on his back, he's able to go and score on almost every drive and clean up this defensive mess every time. To me, that makes him better. I mean, every time he sees what the defense does, okay, they can't make a stop, okay, the opposing offense scored, okay, let me go score. He does that. He has that mindset. So to me, that makes him better.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Raven. I said this on the Sunday show, but I get Joe Burrow was great, and there's no doubt about that. Like you said, the numbers don't lie. But Joe Burrow had Jamar Chase, he had Thaddeus Moss, Terrace Marshall, Justin Jefferson, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, that's the best offense ever.
Yeah.
And that's, like, without a doubt. And, like, with those guys, that made Joe better, too.
Mm-hmm.
That made Joe better than what he actually was. But I also, you look at and what Jayden Daniels is doing. He's a threat with his legs too, and that's something Burrow wasn't like crazy
Lacked
with.
in,
And
yeah.
so Jaden's doing this with less talented guys, and he's also hurting people with his legs. So
Yeah.
I think it's time we kind of start to compare the two because Jayden Daniels is just going to go unnoticed because he didn't make it to the playoffs, and I think that's really unfair because you look at the defense that 2019 had, and it's like you would have still won
Yeah.
with a
Right.
decent defense,
Yeah.
no
Right.
matter what.
And I think it's just like I said, with the season Joe had, it's just like such a shadowy thing. It's kind of hard to really just outshine that. Anything like that, nobody's probably ever going to come close to a
Yeah.
season like that. But I think Jayden Daniels may be a scarier quarterback to play against simply because of the fact of what he can do on the ground.
Right.
Right.
Quarterbacks like that are always harder to game plan for.
Yeah.
Joe's
Joe
he
is
was an
like you just
amazing
get to
quarterback,
him,
but
right?
Joe
Yeah.
is, if you get to him, cool, you'll have
You
success. You get
yeah.
pressure on him. You can't. It's not that simple with Jay Daniels. You can't just get to him because Jay Daniels will make you look silly, like he made the dude
Yeah.
look at Alabama. So
Yeah, and so when you look at this LSU offense and how dominant they are, I mean, how disappointed are y'all just with the defense this season?
I don't even
I
think
mean, yeah.
disappointed is the word.
Yeah.
Word,
I
yeah.
just think I can't even find the words to tell you this. To be honest, I
Yeah.
mean, this is a Heisman quarterback as far as I'm concerned. And you kind of just wasted a season like this. I mean, with the way Jay Daniels is playing,
Might as well have redshirted the guy.
Might as
right?
well.
Like,
Exactly.
it should have been nothing short of national championship expectations with the way that this offense has been playing.
mhm.
And the sad part is we saw this as a problem in week 1, but we had a little bit of faith that it would get better over time. They would
Yeah.
improve
I don't
just
know.
a little bit week by week.
Yeah.
And it still hasn't happened. And I think the Auburn and the Army game gave us a little bit of false hope that, okay, they're going to correct
Maybe the
some
defense,
things.
yeah.
And it still didn't happen. They never looked at this offense and said, I need to have these guys back. I need
Yeah.
to
Exactly.
give them something in return.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they hardly ever stopped and thought, hey, if our offense is able to score on almost every drive, especially during these close games like Ole Miss and difficult games like Alabama, like our offense kept us in those games.
Yeah.
They never thought, oh, we
Mhm.
should go out and make stops. At least give them a break.
Right.
Like I know our offense is tired. Like this is one, if not the worst
Like
LSU
4 stops a
defense
game,
in
that's like
history.
all
Just-
we're asking for.
That's it. That's all we
Yeah.
had against Florida. And that's all we need you to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean they're inconsistent, lazy, and play with no motivation or drive whatsoever. And like Andre said on the Sunday show, it really is heartbreaking
Yeah.
to like if Jayden doesn't win the Heisman, it's this defense's fault.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is. And it's disheartening, like you said. It's disheartening to see how good Jayden Daniels has been this season and then the historical season that the entire offense is
Yeah.
putting up. So it's not just Jayden at this point. It's guys like Malik, Brian Thomas, Logan Diggs, and entire
Yes.
running back. The great offensive line this
Yeah.
year. I think that's just it just shows, it's not going to mean anything, right? I think I'm most disappointed in the defensive effort where there just seems to be so much laziness, like
Yeah.
Raven said.
Yeah.
I just also have not seen an LSU secondary to be so shallow over the years. And that's something LSU hasn't struggled to recruit in over the years until now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what do you think has to be better, just like in the future? Looking forward, not even this season, but maybe just in
I
terms
think-
of long term.
Brian Kelly and the rest of this coaching staff, they're going to have to work their tails off to
Yeah.
recruit some better
Right.
players. I saw the dumbest thing in the world on Twitter today where somebody was like, I'd rather have a team full of 3-stars that want to play at LSU and grew up LSU fans than having a few 5-stars that they didn't really grow up LSU fans or they didn't care about LSU like that.
Right.
And I just think that that's just the most ridiculous and nonchalant thing to say. I just think you're lying to yourself if
Yeah.
you actually think that. They are really going to have to do a better job at recruiting. I mean, we just lost a 4-star yesterday.
Another.
And another 4-star.
Cornerback,
after
by
won
the
a
way,
couple
yeah.
weeks ago to Georgia. So they're going to really have to do a better job at recruiting because what I see in the cornerback room in the future, my hopes are not that high. My expectations aren't too crazy. So, yeah, they're going to have to get in that transfer portal, and they're going to have to go steal some people, man.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, just based off this season, I just said everything on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, I know we
Yeah.
just talked about how sorry their performance was this season, but to the players and how they perform on the field and to the coaching staff actually knowing what they're doing on the defensive side of the ball, because I just feel like this season was a crap show. They clearly
Yeah.
don't know what they're doing. I mean,
Hmm.
Matt House should have been fired 2 months ago,
Yeah.
considering
Yeah.
he's the ringleader behind all of this. I
A
mean,
ringleader.
A&M fired Jimbo Fisher, and Penn State fired their offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So
Follow
LSU, I'm
suit.
asking you, what are we waiting on? Like Matt House
What are
should
you
not be on
waiting
the
for?
field.
What are you waiting for?
Like he shouldn't be on the field this Saturday against Georgia State, a game that we
Right.
know that we're gonna win. I mean, it's just
I don't even
sorry.
trust
Like,
him that much.
I mean, you look
Yeah.
at the video of Matt House during Bama when Jalen Delro was running, and he's like, "What to do?
Wow.
What more to do?"
what more to do?
like he just gave up, like right there. He's
Yeah.
like, well, I can't do anything else.
I mean,
like you need to be
I agree.
gone.
I agree. I think it starts with coaching. I think Matt House is making things way too complicated than what they need to be. And first, I think with how the defensive line has been trying to overcomplicate things, I think that's where it starts. I think that you could have guys, have just go through stunts where the edges rush the interior guys, which sets up, a guy like Harold Perkins or Braden Swinson, a faster guy to go and take a shot at one of those tackles. And you saw Harold Perkins, he had a forced fumble this week and also another sack. So it's just like, why not put your players in the best, positions to win?
Exactly.
And so
and that's what he did not do.
and
all
then you
season.
look at the linebackers; they've struggled all year. Just in run defense, you saw it this week with Florida, you saw it with Bama, and now you're seeing it just all season, pretty much. So it's hard to game plan around that, and I think that's kind of where it starts, and it's causing him trouble because he had guys that could fill the gap last year.
Yeah,
But
I will say I like what I'm seeing from the freshman Javian Toviano.
yeah,
I
will say
that.
the DBs, I feel like they're
Yeah.
not the problem anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But with the recent play of Jayden Daniels, last LSU question, do you think he's a first-round draft pick? And what team could you see him possibly going to?
I mean,
I'd love to see him stay in Louisiana.
Yeah.
but that's just wishful thinking. I think he could play himself into being a late first rounder, maybe an early second rounder. I just think that the scouts are really going to value, the Caleb Williams, the Drake Mays, and even the
McCarthy's
the
even.
McCarthy.
Yeah.
So, but I definitely could see him playing himself into a late first round, early second round pick. And I hope he goes higher than that because, man, this is just such a likable guy, man. You just want to see him do well.
And he's humble, man.
Yeah.
Like you said, when you asked him a question this week about the record, he thanked his teammates first.
yeah.
I asked him, I just thought about this. I asked him what were his thoughts about it, and all he had to tell me was, how his teammates contributed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
mean,
saying something.
I think he's definitely going late first round, no doubt. Any NFL team would be lucky to have Daniels, and I feel like the scouts will see that.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as what team I think he'll go to, I feel like he'll go to the Cardinals because
Cardinals?
Kyler Murray, I'm glad he's healthy and I'm glad
Yeah.
he's back. He's washed up. He's been washed up
Sheesh.
since they
That's-
made
He
it.
just got on the field.
I know, but
He's
he
playing
even
COD too
last,
much, man.
Yeah.
last season he was washed up. He hasn't been the same since they made it to the playoffs. What, 2 years ago? And I just, I mean, I had
Yeah.
I
It was
had
2 or 3
the
years
Cardinals or
ago.
the Broncos.
It was his rookie season.
That was
Okay.
his rookie
I
year?
think so.
Really?
When they made the playoffs.
No, that
Okay.
wasn't his rookie year, was it?
I want to say it was.
Oh wow.
But I could be wrong.
I mean, I had the Broncos too, but Russell Wilson is hard to. I don't know. Not.
Yeah.
That
I mean, they
contract-
just beat the Bills.
I'm
yesterday,
gonna.
so,
I'm gonna say a team that needs them right away, and I'm gonna say maybe the Indianapolis, not the Colts because they have Richardson now, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with like maybe New England. I think
Okay.
New
Yeah,
England
that's
or a
valid.
team like the Saints, like you said. I think they could go. I think he could go highest is like middle first round
Yeah.
to early second round, and I think that's where maybe the Saints could pick him up.
Yeah.
But
But do you think he'd start on the Saints?
I don't think
I
so.
hope,
Okay.
But I mean, I wouldn't even count it against him because with the way that Derek Carr's playing and
Yeah.
the way that Jameis went out there last week and was 2-2,
Yeah.
why not, right?
Why not?
So moving on to other college football game, Georgia Cruise passed Ole Miss, defeating them by a score of 52-17.
Yeah.
This Georgia team is figuring things out, so let's talk about their future. So with the SEC championship now being confirmed, Alabama and Georgia once again, what do you expect in this game and who wins?
I think on the Sunday show I picked Georgia to win, but I've done some thinking and
Oh wow.
I'm gonna pick Alabama to win.
Mm-mm.
Oh
It
no.
It just feels like one of those moments where, look, I'll say this: it doesn't matter how much better a team typically looks than Alabama. Alabama is not coming in there to lay down. Like I can assure you that
They're playing their best ball right
they're
now.
playing their
Yeah.
best ball. This is the
So
team.
is Georgia though.
So that's a very good point. But I just feel like Alabama is trending and peaking right when they need to be.
Yeah.
And I think Georgia's a beatable team. They've shown us that, throughout this season. And I think if there's any team that can capitalize on Georgia having slow starts and having little mishaps here and there, I think it'll be Alabama.
Yeah.
I mean, I changed my answer from the Sunday Show shoot, but I had Georgia winning by 21. Now I have them winning by 10. But I don't think Alabama's
Yeah,
capable.
21 was.
That was out of line. I'll agree on that.
Right
y'all
there.
were looking at me like, huh? But
I mean,
I still
hey,
don't think. I don't think Alabama is capable. Not this Alabama team. Maybe last season,
Yeah,
but not
I was gonna
this
say the same
one.
thing.
Not this bad
I
team.
think my early prediction is going to be, like I said, I think Georgia's going to win this game anywhere between a touchdown and 10 points. I just think I think college football itself is valued more so around the elite defenses are going to, do better for you than an elite offense will. And you see that with LSU, right? And you see what Georgia is doing on defense week in and week out, and they're finding themselves now. And so I think that the Alabama offense is a little overrated. I think that what LSU and Kentucky kind of made Jalen Milroe look like the past few weeks, you're not going to see that. You're not going to see that in the first week of December. But I'm going to say that this Georgia offense does just enough against this Alabama defense. I think it's going to be close, though. But let's go shift into the NFL now. Mm-hmm. There were many interesting games, but we're going to begin talking with Ravens' favorite team, the Houston Texans. I mean, these cats are 5-4. After an impressive win against the Cincinnati Bengals, who were playing their best football.
Yeah, they broke their winning streak.
And so C.J. Stroud gets a bounce-back win after losing to the Panthers. Right? And now the Texans are only a game behind the Jaguars. So I'm going to ask y'all, what has surprised y'all the most with this Texans team so far?
I mean, just from being a fan standpoint, I'm surprised they've actually played football in the fourth quarter. That's what has caused them. That's what's caused them to win majority of these games. I mean, besides the addition of C.J. Stroud, a.k.a. our savior. Thank you, C.J. But, I mean, they typically always keep it close. For the last 2 seasons, the Texans have been the worst team in the NFL at scoring in the fourth quarter. And being a fan and watching from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, I mean, I've seen them lead all the way up into the third and lose it in the fourth. So I feel like that's their biggest improvement to me.
There you go.
I think the thing that surprised me the most is easily C.J. Stroud, and right behind that, I would put this receiving core.
Yeah.
Okay.
And C.J. Stroud is probably a legitimate MVP candidate right now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
As a rookie quarterback who was just handed the keys to the franchise, told the front office, no, I want you to draft Tank Dell. And they say, okay, you got it. And he goes out there and shows you.
And he's good.
This is why I wanted you to do that. So
NFL young boy, by the way.
NFL young boy. So I just think it C.J. Stroud has surprised me the most just with his level of play and just with his composure, the way that he looks like he's been here before. He looks like a veteran playing this
He does
sport.
look a veteran.
That's a good
Nothing
point.
really phases him. And another thing, this receiving core, every week it's another receiver with 100 yards.
Yeah.
C.J. is one of those quarterbacks that can get every receiver involved.
Yeah,
So
he is.
I think that's something that surprised me the most about this team.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Jayden. I think what has surprised me most with the Houston Texans is C.J. Stroud, and with how comfortable he already is in the NFL. He has been the best rookie in the league, and he's so mature. Like you said, he just plays mature, and he plays calm.
Yeah.
Even when he goes down
He's very
and
poised.
doesn't get what he wants from a drive, he comes back better. And that kind of just shows that he's mature, and he was a very good quarterback coming in. But I think if he continues to put in this kind of production, he's not only going to be the rookie of the year, this kid might be the MVP.
MVP,
And that's not ridiculous to say. And I think also this is an attest to how DeMarco Ryans is really settling in as a coach. I know for being a player's coach, it can be hard. And this guy's young. So, I mean, they have a lot of time. And this team's still young.
Yeah.
So, also, the front office, they, like you said, Jayden, they went and got guys that the players wanted to play with. And I think that just shows that they really wanted to win now and not set up for later. But do you think the Texans can be a playoff team and potentially win the AFC South?
Oh,
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said something about the front office again, because I think it started on draft night when they traded up
And got Will Anderson.
They didn't settle for what they already had. I definitely think this could be a playoff team. And who knows? They could even sneak past the Jaguars with as
I agree.
inconsistent as
exactly.
they are. So I definitely think this could be a playoff team, and who knows, maybe even make a little noise in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think they could be a playoff team, especially if the Jaguars, who lead the division right now, start to lose games, which They just lost tragically to the 49ers, 34-3.
That was a bad loss.
And then, especially with
home.
Anthony Richardson out, I'm not too concerned about the Colts, who
Yeah.
sit in third.
Yeah, they're
And the Titans aren't a threat at all. So I definitely think the Texans can win
it's
the
between
AFC
those
South.
two, right?
Yeah.
Those two.
And I think like the Texans just have to find their identity and continue to play with that each week, right? You saw them lose against Carolina and then come back and win 2 in a row, but you just have to play hard every week. And I think those younger guys kind of said, hey, maybe this one will come easier than expected against Carolina. And that happens in the NFL. Like, it's going to be a good game regardless.
Yeah.
And so I think if you just go into a mindset where, hey, we just need to play our brand of football, it's going to work out. But what are your predictions for them for the rest of the season?
I think they finished the season 10-7 to 11-6. I think these guys are truly bought into this team. It's kind of hard not to be with the way that they've been trending on social media the past couple of weeks. And they have a quarterback.
Mhm.
You know, if you have a quarterback, you have a puncher's chance.
That's your start,
I'll
right?
say that.
I mean, I have them going 11-6 on the season. I have them losing to the Browns because the Browns have a top 10 defense. And
Right.
after watching that Ravens game, that kind of shook me up a bit. I don't know how our young offense is going to.
But he diced up the Steelers' defense. though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. I just don't know how they're going to perform.
the
The
Saints.
Texans always lose a
We're
game
not
they're
gonna
not
talk about
Yeah,
supposed
in
to.
the sense, yeah.
We're not gonna talk
Unfortunately.
We're
about
not
that.
going to talk about that.
He
And
did throw
then-
his first pick against us, though. So.
Yeah, that is
exactly.
true.
And I think the Texans, I think they're going to sneak their way into an AFC wildcard spot. I think they're going to be one of those last teams in and have to play like the 2 seed. But I think that's so good. I think that's so
Oh
good
yeah, for us
for
especially.
Houston, right?
Yeah.
Just for not
Like the
being
past
there
4
in
to
so
5
long, right?
seasons have been hard, especially after Watson.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
after
just
everything
been-
happened with
yeah.
him. But like, I think that's such a win. You take your wins where you can get them, and that's certainly a start for them in a rebuild year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so the last, I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Cincinnati Bengals and how they kind
Yeah.
of were supposed to be in a rebuild
Yeah.
season, end up going to the Super Bowl that year. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen for the Texans. They don't have enough weapons for that quite yet, but
I
they're
agree.
still going to win games
Yeah.
down the
They're
stretch.
way ahead of
Yeah.
schedule.
Right, exactly. And so the last team we're going to talk about is those San Francisco 49ers really quickly. This team has had a lot of questions over the past week after losing 3 straight, but they went out and blew out a very inconsistent but talented Jaguars team. So does this week make you think that the Eagles still have some comp in the NFC?
It's the NFL, so there's always going to be comp.
Yeah.
I mean, it's filled with too many great players,
Mhm.
and, you know, coaching staff and stuff like that. So there's always going to be competition per se. But I still think the Eagles are comfortably the best team in the NFC.
Yeah,
I don't
for
really
sure.
think that's even a hard question to ask. But it is a good win to get back on track for them. Like you said, you just mentioned playing your brand of football, and that's exactly what they did on Sunday. So
Yeah.
I mean, based off this week, like Andre said, this Jaguars team is very inconsistent. And I don't know, only because Brock Purdy is also so inconsistent. Like, when he's has a bad game, it's
It's
ugly.
bad,
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
he just has all these weapons surrounding him, which makes him look like a better quarterback than he actually is. I
Mhm.
mean, like Andre said,
Mhm.
they went out. They had a 3-game losing streak to
Losing
the
streak.
Brown, Vikings, and Bengals, and all
Teams that
those
they should not have lost. to.
right, all those losses were basically his fault. I mean, I know
Yeah.
that's harsh, but they
I mean,
were.
it's true.
yeah,
Yeah,
It's
he
true.
turned the
Yeah.
ball over. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I agree. And I think when the 49ers are healthy, and I think when Brock Purdy is, when the 49ers, I would say, are all playing at their best, they could easily go out and beat the Eagles, I think. I think that just comes with, can Brock Purdy make the right decisions?
Right.
Can he make the right throws? And so that's going to be the question for them down the line. But with the addition of Chase Young, how much does this help San Fran?
I mean, it helps them, but it's not like they were filling a gap that they didn't need
Right, yeah.
or that
Right.
they needed or something like that. But yeah, it certainly helps.
like the
having a
rich get
player-
richer.
Yeah, the rich get richer. It certainly helps adding a player like that on your defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really just that simple. But the crazy part about it is they went and did that, and I'm still not sure they have a better D line than the Eagles.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean, with how good this 49ers defense is, I mean, like you said, the rich get richer. He's going to help supercharge their pass rush, which
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like that's where they lack. So, I mean, that'll help them. But, I mean, like you
Yeah.
said, the rich get richer. I mean,
Here's my thing. Like, I think this was a huge move for the Niners, and this is my reason. Because you're already solid on defense, right?
Yeah.
Your defense was never the problem. And then you have a guy in Nick Bosa that's going to line on the opposite side,
Right.
and he's already a force to be reckoned with. you can't double team both.
Yeah, I was
And
saying,
so I think you getting another quarterback is going to be insane for teams to try and figure out.
Right.
yeah, I was seeing clips of the Jags game on Sunday.
And
And it
Trevor was
literally
running
it-
for
it-
his life.
It
Yeah.
literally was like pick your poison.
Yes.
Like you couldn't double either of these. I mean, they were racing the Trevor Lawrence. Like
Yeah.
it's actually like insane, bro.
I agree. And so what are your predictions for them, I guess, for the rest of the season?
I think we can see ourselves having another Eagles-Niners
I was
NFC
gonna-
championship.
I was going to say the same
It
thing.
almost feels like last year the Niners have made another mid-season trade.
Yeah. Big move.
Another big time marquee player, and especially when I didn't even throw in this fact, but they kind of got Chase Young for nothing in return. I mean, when you
A bag
consider
of chips,
what,
yeah.
well, bag of chips, when you
They gave
consider
up
what
what?
they gave
A
up for
draft
him,
pick?
I mean, yeah,
Two?
I'll take that deal any day of the week. So I think we'll find ourselves another Eagles 49ers
Yeah.
NFC championship.
Yeah, I completely agree. I only have them losing 2 more games to the Eagles and the Ravens. Actually, I feel like
Mhm.
Brock Purdy's gonna choke because I feel like he's bound to choke
Against
one
good
more time.
defenses, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right. And I see them as the 2 seed right behind the Eagles. And I
Okay.
think they're going to end up facing each other again. But it is now time for the best segment of the week. It's time to give out our weekly poo-poo Broussards of the week. This award goes out to the worst performance of the week, whether that's a player, team, coach, or a fan base. So, Jayden, you want me to start with you, or Raven, do you want to go?
I mean,
Let Raven go.
just because we already talked about it, my poo-poo Broussard of the week is the LSU Sports Administration because
Oh, no.
why is Matt House still here? He should have
The LSU
been
Sports
fired.
Administration.
really after Florida State when our defense looked so combobulated. It was like a mixed up puzzle. Like we were looking like, okay, why
Yeah,
is
that was
Harold
just
Perkins
bad.
here? Why is Sage Ryan here? Like, no, it's Matt House should have been gone a long time ago. And like I said before, he shouldn't even be on the field playing Georgia State or A&M. But I know that he will be. They probably won't fire him till
Till the end of the
beginning.
season. That's usually what Brian Kelly is. He is.
But it's like, what
yeah.
are y'all waiting on? So that's my poo-poo Broussard of the week.
Wow.
I'm gonna go Penn State's James Franklin. I mean,
Hey, he's been here before,
he's
so
he's been here before.
notable comeback play. Poo-poo
Take a seat.
Broussard.
Take a seat, man. But yeah, man.
Self-explanatory. right?
Andre had a lot to say about this guy a couple of weeks ago in
Don't miss.
particular, and he couldn't have been more right. I mean, and the sad part is these fans are content with every year just going to the
Rose
Rose
Bowl.
Bowl
Rose Bowl.
every year. I get to play in Pasadena. Woo! But
Woo!
Yeah, we get to travel to the West
we
Coast,
get to
baby.
travel to the West
Again.
Coast.
That's the most exciting part of their season.
But it's just, yet again, he
I guess-
can't win the big game. He can't hang
Nope.
with the big boys.
Nope.
It's just a bad look, man.
And firing your offensive coordinator, that's a step
Firing
forward.
your
I will say
offensive
that.
coordinator.
But
But he's
it's-
got to fire somebody else.
I
It's just
think
one more guy.
I think it's him that needs to be fired,
Yeah.
right? And so this week I'm going to give mine. So the Ole Miss Rebels and Lane Kiffin. This was the best Ole Miss team in years, and they were expected to at least give Georgia a little
the
bit,
run for their money at least.
not even a run for their money, just a
Just make it
decent
interesting.
game, like at
Yeah.
least 10 points. And you go out and you lose by 5 touchdowns. This just shows how good Georgia is, yes, but it also just shows how Lane Kiffin is never going to win a national championship, especially with an inability to have a defense over the years. So that is going to do it for us here today. Big thank you to Raven Freeman and Jayden Smith for joining me as always. I'm Andre Champagne, and this has been the Hodges Huddle.